Hi and welcome back to step-by-step-guitartuition.com. This is the 5th lesson in the Step 1 module, and in this lesson I'm going to show you how you can use the A major scale that you learnt in lesson 2 to improvise over the 3 major chords A, D and E. It's important that you're familiar with the A major scale before continuing this lesson, so if you feel that you haven't yet mastered it, I recommend going back to lesson 2 just to recap. Firstly, let me explain what improvising is. Improvising, or jamming as it's more commonly known, is the ability to create music or solo melodies spontaneously. It's like having a conversation with someone as opposed to reading a book. In the same way that you need a vocabulary of words to converse, a musician needs a vocabulary of scales, arpeggios and techniques to improvise. We all have our favourite guitar solos that we love to listen to, by the likes of Eric Clapton, Jimmy Page, Jimi Hendrix. Well, the chances are that most of those solos will have been improvised, literally made up on the spot without the use of pre-written music. Improvising is a key skill for guitarists, and it's also good fun. Because this is your first lesson in improvising, I'm going to keep it simple, and you'll gradually learn more techniques, scales and arpeggios as you progress through the step-by-step syllabus. Firstly, let's hear what the A major scale sounds like when it's played over an A major chord. As you can hear, the scale and the chord sound good together. Just for comparison, I'll do that again, but this time I'll play the wrong scale over the A major chord and we'll see what that sounds like. I think you'll agree that didn't sound very good at all. So now you can see how important it is to select the right scale for the right chords that you're playing over, because this will give you a group of notes to work with that you can be sure will sound good. The next thing to point out is that when playing the A major scale over the A major chord, some of the notes of the scale will harmonise perfectly with the chord and others will sound slightly odd or dissonant. The notes that harmonise are the first note of the scale, the third note and the fifth note. And this is because these 3 notes are actually the 3 notes of the A major chord. The remaining notes, the 2nd, 4th, 6th and 7th, are not in the A major chord, and so these are used as passing notes or stepping stones between the 1st, 3rd and 5th. To demonstrate this, I'll play the 1st, 3rd and 5th over the A major chord, and then I'll play the passing notes and we'll see if you can hear the difference. Now the passing notes. So when you're improvising, you need to be aware of the difference between the notes of the chord, the 1st, 3rd and 5th, and the passing notes, the 2nd, 4th, 6th and 7th. Right, let's start improvising. To keep it simple, I'm only going to use the 3rd note and the 5th note over an A major chord backing track. And I'll just play what comes naturally. At this point I won't use any special techniques, so we'll just see what happens. So you can hear how those notes work against the A chord, but because I'm only using 2 notes, my options are quite limited. Now I'll introduce the 4th note, which is a passing note, and I'll use it to step between the third and the fifth. This should sound more interesting. Now let's introduce the sixth note, which again is a passing note, and this should give us a lot more options. Try using the sixth note as a passing note down to the fifth, and the fourth note as a passing note down to the third, or up to the fifth. Remember, you can also play the notes in all sorts of different orders, and you can experiment with the timing. Let's have a go. Now I'll introduce the first, second, seventh and eighth note. Try using the second note to pass down to the first or up to the third, and use the seventh note to pass up to the eighth note. Because the first and the eighth are the tonal centre of the scale, you can use them to resolve your phrases, which will give your phrasing a sense of beginning and end. Remember, at this point I'm still only playing over one chord. Things will get more interesting when you play over numerous chords. So let's have a go at using all the notes now. Up to now, I've only had one chord to play over, which is quite limiting. Now I'm going to play over an A major chord and a D major chord sequence. This will make things more interesting, but also a little bit trickier, because I'll need to alter my choice of notes when playing over the D chord. The three notes that make a D major chord are the fourth note of the A major scale, the sixth note of the A major scale, and the eighth note, or first note. All of the other notes become passing notes, and if you're aware of this, your improvising will sound a lot more melodic. So before I start improvising, let me just recap. Over the A chord, the first, third and fifth note of the A major scale are the harmony notes, and over the D chord, the first, fourth and sixth notes are the harmony notes. Don't forget the eighth note, which is the same as the first note. This time when I improvise, I'll try to start and end my phrases on a note that is in the chord that I'm playing over, and this should make my playing fit the chords and sound more tuneful. Okay, let's hear what that sounds like. Now I'm going to improvise over the three chords A, D and E major. When you're playing over the E chord, just like with the D and the A, you need to be aware of the three notes that make up the chord. These notes are the second note, the fifth note and the seventh note of the A major scale. This means that over the E chord, the first, third, fourth and sixth notes become passing notes. Let's recap the notes of the three chords. The notes of the A major chord are the first note of the major scale, the third note of the major scale and the fifth note of the major scale. The notes of the D chord are the first note of the major scale, the fourth and the sixth, and the notes of the E chord are the second note of the major scale, the fifth note and the seventh note. So this time, when I'm improvising, I need to be aware of which chord I'm playing over to help me select the most suitable notes for the chord. With practice and experience, you'll be able to rely more on your ear to help you with this, rather than constantly thinking about which chord you're playing over. So that was an introduction to improvising, and I'm sure you'll find that it's one of the most enjoyable aspects of playing the guitar. And the more you do it, the more fun it becomes, especially when you start using all the different techniques that we'll cover later in the syllabus. You can find the sequences that we use today in the notes that accompany this lesson, and also you can find longer versions of the backing tracks to improvise over on the step-by-step website. Or why not make up and record your own sequences for a bit of extra chord practice? I look forward to seeing you in lesson 6, where I'll introduce you to some basic strumming patterns to improve your rhythm guitar playing. Until then, happy improvising!